I'm going to call the meeting of the Brainerd City Council to order. I hope everybody has a nice and safe St. Patrick's Day if you're so inclined. But the weather we're supposed to get is not St. Patrick's Day like at all.
Could be.
Anyway, I guess we don't have much control over that. So anyway, welcome, everyone in the audience and everyone in the TV audience. Let's do roll call.
Bevins,
Here.
Sheeler,
Here.
Borkhagen,
Here.
Cope,
Here.
Pritchett,
Here.
Matten,
Here.
Parks.
Here. Please join me with Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion
So
to
moved.
approve the agenda?
Second.
Pritchett, second. Wheeler, motion. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Brings us to the consent calendar.
Move approval.
All matters listed are considered routine by the council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the council votes on the motion to adopt by roll call. We have a motion by Cope to approve.
Second.
You guys
We'll
have
give-
just heard that.
We'll give that one to Kelly. That's roll call.
Bevins,
Yes.
Sheeler,
Yes.
Borkhagen,
Yep.
Cope,
Yes.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Matten,
Yes.
Parks.
Yes. Again, I want to also point out that we do still have some call for applicants. We have 2 openings on the Cable TV Advisory Committee, 2 on the Library Board, and 3 terms on the Transportation Advisory Committee.
Mr. Chair, we
Yes.
have an applicant for the library, and if the mayor is not able to attend another meeting, maybe you can make an appointment for this. For this here, before us.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
talk
Just
to him.
raising the issue.
Okay, approval of transfer of funds recommended by the Personnel and Finance Committee. Mr. Bevins.
The motion is to approve the bills and transfers of funds and prepaids as presented, and I so move.
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Bevins,
Yes.
Sheeler,
Yes.
Borkhagen,
Yep.
Cope,
Yes.
Pritchett,
Yes.
Matten,
Yes.
Parks.
Yes. Legislative update. I assume that's going to be you, Pat?
I guess I have some new updates. Scheduled to go down to the Capitol tomorrow, but with the bad weather, we put together, with the help of Todd Wickland from BPU, we put together the major talking points. We'll give a copy to the press and put that in the packet, but just giving you an update. We were at the Capitol, Todd and I were last Tuesday. There were a variety of questions. We included those comments on here. Things like where the utilities, which utilities Brainerd operated. Also, how much power did it generate? So we put this together, and Mr. Ward will present this tomorrow, and we should be in good shape. Some of the highlights on it, it talked about annual savings of $280,000 due to the fact that the hydroelectric power is scheduled to cost approximately 4.8 cents versus the 6.5 cents we currently pay for Minnesota Power. So just trying to identify some of the important things. Talked about the FERC licensing, and at the time this memo was written, we had not received the documentation, but we did today. Todd did at least, and that they are going to transfer the FERC license. So we are progressing towards everything that the city needs to acquire the dam. Additionally, I will give to you information related to the local option sales tax that was presented last week. City of Baxter and Brainerd presented the local option sales tax to one of the House committees. These were the handouts and comments that we talked about there, the highlights. We did, again, share with council that we did receive a variety of questions from the committee. That actually went very smoothly and only had about 5 minutes worth of presentations. So the House actually moved it to the omnibus bill into preparation for approval, so they won't have to have any additional committee hearings at the House. We heard the same from the Senate on Thursday night. Senator Rude presented it there, and they moved it to the omnibus Senate bill too, so though that option is progressing well. Other than that, I'd be willing to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
I just want to thank you for going down there and representing the city well, and welcome aboard to many more.
Thank you. And I will thank Todd was along, Todd Wickland, and then also when we did the Brainerd option, or with the Baxter with the sales tax, there, Jeremy Frazine? Thank you. Thank you was there, but also both our senator and representative did great job in presenting it and selling it for us too beforehand.
And isn't it nice to see that reaching across the aisle stuff?
Very good, very much so.
Any other questions? Okay, with seeing none, we'll move on to the committee reports, Safety and Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. President. We have added 2 more items to, we have 8 on your sheet, and we added 2, so it'll be 10 of them. And item number 1, improvement 1317, 1318, and 1402. The motion out of committee was to adopt a resolution awarding the bid to the low bidder, Tri-City Paving, for $359,926.57, and I would so move.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
With that, I just want to say, as it states in the packet, it was 2.9 below the engineer's estimate, and we received 2 bids, and, which was expected from the engineering. Jeff is super happy with the numbers, so. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item number 2, classification of tax forfeit parcels. There was a whole list of parcels that were in here on Delmar Drive, Sugarberry Court, and Serene Pines. The motion on the committee is taking staff's recommendation that these special assessments be reattached to the tracts of land to which they were originally assessed, and that those parcels be classified as non-conservation and offered for sale. With that motion, they want one of the parcels proposed to be classified as conservation. Outlot A of Serene Pines is a 20-foot wide corridor between Sugarberry and the Paul Bunyan Trail. And this is an outlot for pedestrian and bicycle access, and that'd be part of the motion.
I would so move.
Second.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item number 3, building permit rebate program for 2014. I'm gonna let Mary make this motion. There you go, Mary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As just a brief refresher, for the last, 2 years, I believe, we've rebated the cost of permits for certain specific things, putting in windows and roof, et cetera. And that was for residential property only. And it did include both home ownership properties and rental properties. And the idea was really to provide an incentive to people to do those kinds of repairs. The cost of the permit was frankly not that high compared with the cost of the project. But sometimes it was the incentive that was needed, and it was quite well received. The city will lose a little over $7,000, or did lose a little over $7,000 in permit income because of that program. But what we received in increased valuation and goodwill perhaps cannot be measured. However, as is true of, I think, all programs, it's time to step back, review, and reconsider. So the motion is to suspend the permit rebate program as of March 20th, and to review the situation, including if the number of permits dropped, held level or increased, to give it a general review by February 1st of 2015. And that's the motion.
Discussion?
A question, Mr. Chair, and I don't know if
Yes,
this.
go ahead.
Is there any data as far as whether permits went up during this program? I appreciate the dollars and cents of what we forgave in opportunity cost on permits, but how about the numbers of permits? Does it seem to have, I mean, it seems like for a while there wasn't a lot of permits being let with the economy and stuff, and does that seem to increase with this program at all, or?
And that's why it was suspended for just 1 year, so that the data could be.
Review it.
We're gonna review it in a
Okay,
year
yep.
so that they can take the data from, last year and the data from this year and see if it's gonna change, and then also, the public input at the counter. But Jeff mentioned in committee that most of the people would go, oh, you got this going now? So most of the people were not aware of it and said, hey, thank you.
That's what we did.
You got this going? Well, thank you for the extra deal. So most people were not aware of it, and with that, we thought we would try it for a year on a trial basis here.
And I would think it'd be difficult to compare the previous year because the economy started.
Yes.
That's right,
Yeah.
we never
rebound
can
and
be
you
sure.
wouldn't know.
Right.
So I think
Well,
the idea.
and not all the numbers really were totally in yet.
Yeah.
Is there any other
Thank you.
discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
Item number 4, 2014 citywide cleanup. We have 2 things going on here. Chip is gonna take it away on one, and then Mary's gonna make a motion on another. So Chip, you go with your update.
Okay, basically, I've been checking around at the service organizations, Rotary, or not Rotary, but Kiwanis, Tomas, et cetera, trying to find out if there is one of those organizations who might be interested in taking it over for us, so that it wouldn't just completely die. But I don't have support.
And in committee, we had good discussion on this, and we came up with that 3 years ago, we had spent 75,000, a couple years, 1,000, last year was around 700, last year. We felt it was pretty much a disaster for the amount of effort and hours that went into it and what we did. So what we're doing is looking at Chip volunteered to go try to find some organizations to do the citywide. Staff is looking at more the intern and continuing with the enforcement to see, and that's been working really well. And then Mary came up with a motion here that I'll let her make.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We thought in conjunction with all of the other efforts, we might see if the Chamber of Commerce perhaps and the Master Gardener Club might be interested in working with the city. Perhaps a small committee from each group could meet to see if we could put together some beautify Brainerd or spruce up Brainerd or some kind of a program that would again publicize the need to not only clean up but to beautify. We lose nothing by trying, may not help, but we lose nothing by trying. So the motion would be to ask the city planner to consult with the chamber and the master gardener, see if there's any interest in them working with us, and then come back and perhaps our committee could be the one to work with them. So that's the motion.
And then, Mr.
I want to
Ostergarden,
second it.
can we have discussion
Yep,
first
and
and
then
then second, or you want second first?
ahead.
I would second that, but along with just the consideration that Mr. Ostergarden brought up, and that is one of, we all know that he's spread pretty thin as it is. He's got an awful lot of stuff on his plate with the new things that we've asked him to take care of last year in our planning. And so, although I'd be totally in favor of this and really am, I just wouldn't want to see it at the expense of some of the things that, that we already have on he and his department, particularly the Riverwalk, those kinds of things. Really important. But with that caveat, second.
Other discussion?
I have a question. Are we kind of looking at maybe using some of the funds that we have in the past towards the cleanup towards this project, or is that
Well, that wouldn't be my thinking. I was thinking it should be more of just a publicity, getting the word out. And both the Chamber of Commerce has an excellent network to get information out, and the Master Gardeners have a marvelous program, which is really geared at beautifying the city. And they have on their own had a number of rather small programs aimed at Beautify Brainerd. And I thought, well, maybe if the three of us work together, and there might be other groups like to also be involved, maybe we would get something done. And you know, it's really a question of notifying them, and if planner doesn't have time, I can notify them. I just don't want it to be a big time commitment, and I didn't see it that way, so, sorry.
Um,
So I guess I'm a little confused. Are we looking for committees or to people to help on this committee? Is that first and foremost the concern or question? I mean, the JCs I heard came up, the Eagles came up, the Lions Club came up. Is that the question, or is that what we're reaching out for?
No, that's what I'm working on
two parts.
regarding the cleanup.
Okay,
Mary's
working on the beautification.
Right,
is different.
kind of two parts
Okay.
to it.
Okay. And have we thought at all or thought about reaching out to someplace, you know, because I've heard you do a 3-year, what you did 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and last year, and it sounds like last year kind of was a disaster for the amount of people that participated. Reaching out to places such as Home Depot with their curbside pickup and offering a discount and working in conjunction with, they have a curbside dumpster that you pay a certain dollar amount, and whatever can fit in the dumpster, and then they come and take it, not Home Depot, but they coordinate with the
Waste management.
landfills, yes, to come pick those up. And if we could maybe offer a program such as that, and that would probably be in a committee discussion, I'm sure, but maybe pursue something like that so you don't have to work with the curbside or work with the vouchers or work with the central drop-off. You know, it's just another option and just another avenue.
You tried,
Pardon?
did you try the dumpster thing?
That was one of the very first ones that we did back about in the late 1980s, where we had about 10 or 12 locations around the city where we actually had dumpsters dropped off, and the haulers couldn't keep up with them.
They were kept full of garbage.
I'm sorry, they're portable dumpsters. They're big bags that they sell at
Okay.
Home Depot.
Oh,
And
I
just-
see.
it's
Okay.
Just throwing it on, it's an option.
It's
you know,
certainly
it's
something we
something
should
that
consider
could discuss.
along with all the others. 'Cause we need to do something.
Sure.
Is that something that Home Depot is currently offering?
Yes, and it was a newer program for them several years ago. They started that. So it's just a thought process that maybe we could at least, you know, network
hadn't
with
thought
them
of
and
that.
find out if we could get discounted bags, I
I'll-
guess, and offer
I'll-
that to the residents.
I'll check into that also.
Sure.
Other discussion? One of the things that I would like to keep on the radar, and it kind of goes with what Mary is saying, is that one of our strategic plans is the beautifying the neighborhoods. And I think that we have to keep that in mind, because eventually, once the chief and whoever is working with him starts the neighborhood projects, I think that's a goal, is to try to do the beautification within that whole process. And that was something that you mentioned when you were doing the
Yes.
interview, and it's something that we have to keep moving forward on, and I think that if we incorporate that idea, that it may not be this year, but maybe next year, we can include some type of beautification between all the neighborhoods. So, yes?
I'd definitely like to keep the idea alive. I mean, even if we don't do a general whole city thing, I mean, we could even look at spot areas where, you know, there are areas where people are dumping stuff. And instead of having a whole citywide cleanup, take that time, effort, and some of those funds and maybe just focus on one of those spots. If we keep that kind of in the mix too. And we could even do something this year also.
Yes. Good point. We'll constantly work on it here in Safety and Public Works. We agree with you. You know, and we'll take all ideas.
Sounds good.
Is there any other discussion?
Can I rehear the motion? It's been a while.
Better start writing stuff
And
down.
it was a lengthy one.
Pursue the
multi-part.
chamber, master gardeners, go ahead.
And city, to see if there could be a small subcommittee from each to try to pursue the idea and hopefully bring it to fruition of some kind of a beautify Brainerd project.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item number 5, Whittier School Review. Basically, everybody got it in their packet, we went through it in committee, and the motion will be coming out of committee here to send it back to school, as we're not interested in the purchase.
Second.
And then just to follow up on that, Jeff went through and did a nice layout here for those, and I'm not gonna read everything on there, and Chip jumped in and also said, or in committee that, the city has done their due diligence, so we're comfortable with the motion.
Discussion? Did you want to say something?
No.
Oh. Anybody want any discussion? Okay. No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item number 6, Campman encroachment.
Before I forget, thank you for setting up the walkthrough and Jeff going through, because I unfortunately couldn't make it, but that seems like that was the turning point, is being able to
That's
look and see what was there. So thank you
Yeah.
very much.
And I'm sure with the front page news, and I thank Jessica for doing a great story there. You've done well. Item number 6, Campman encroachment. We had discussion, and this is gonna be held over, so I won't even get into all the discussion, but they were also here, and I see they had left. Item number 7, improvement 13-19, and the motion would be to adopt the resolution receiving report and calling for a hearing at 7:30 PM Monday, April 7th of 2014 in city attachment. So move.
second.
Any discussion? Oh, go ahead.
This project, and I can probably help, being it's got quite a bit, I'll let Jeff kind of handle what this is going to be around the Garfield School, so the public can get an idea where we're going to head with this.
If I can, Mr. President, yes, this is the proposed reconstruction of the streets in the Garfield School area. It's 10th and 11th Avenues between J and L Street, and J and L Street between 10th and 11th Avenues. Project consists of complete reconstruction, so it'll be complete street removals. On 2 of the blocks, Brainerd Public Utilities wants us to replace their water main for them, which we've included in the project. We have about 3 blocks of sanitary sewer, mostly in alleys, that are going to be replaced and or rehabbed. And then we've got about 2 blocks of storm sewer that needs to be replaced, and the storm sewer, normally we wouldn't replace that, but this particular storm sewer pipe is clay tile pipe. It's not reinforced concrete as we would normally see in our storm sewer system. So it is experiencing some structural problems. And as long as we're doing the roads on top, we want to make sure that the storm sewer, the pipes underneath the road are also good. So we're proposing to replace those. The storm sewer, sanitary sewer, and water main, we're proposing to pay for that out of the respective utility funds. So that would be our stormwater fund, sanitary sewer fund, and the water main would be paid for by Brainerd Public Utilities. Of the street reconstruction cost, about $355,000. We're estimating about $130,000 would be subject to special assessments against abutting properties. Normally, the percentage of that would be a little higher, but with the school, we're dealing with some relatively large side yard setbacks. So that puts a little bit more of the proportional burden on the city with our side yard deduction policy. And in addition to that, we've got some significant work on the intersections around the school, both at L Street and 10th Avenue, L Street and 11th Avenue, particularly at L Street and 11th Avenue, where we're completely refiguring the geometry of that intersection so that we don't have 60 feet of pavement for the kids to be crossing. That we're going to shorten that up so it's a shorter length for the crosswalks. And that also is leading to some of that difference in price. With that, we have prepared a preliminary assessment roll and are recommending that the council adopt this resolution and hold the public hearing to consider the improvement on April 7th.
And I would just add, this project is $764,000 and does not include the Safe Route to School project, which is around $300,000. So we're talking over $1 million worth of construction with those 2 projects right around Garfield area.
Yep.
So, and go with the motion.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item number 8, Mark worked with us. The motion on the floor is to amend the trial period to include food trailers, and that would be the motion, and then we can go into discussion.
Second.
Discussion.
Mark, you want to quickly update? It's more of a language.
Sure. In 2013, the city council approved a trial period for mobile food units to include only food trucks to operate in the city of an evaluation period. At the end of 2013, the council extended that evaluation period or trial period until the end of 2014. It has now come, a request has now come to us to by an individual to operate a food trailer in the city of Brainerd, and they have submitted an application, a letter explaining what they're all about, and even submitted some menu information. They came before the Safety and Public Works Committee asking for the ability to operate in the city, and the only way to do that would be for the city council to amend its language that it approved for food trucks to allow food trailers in that trial period.
Thank you.
Further discussion?
My only concern is the size of the trailer, and, you know, if we approve this, are they gonna have the motor home attached to the trailer the entire time that they're gonna be selling? Because that's a little different than food trucks I've seen sideways.
It's my understand, if I may, it's my understanding that, yes, they'll be using the RV and the trailer at the same time. What they have to remember is that the operational requirements that the council set up is that a site plan has to be submitted for the private property on which they're going to be locating, identifying where on the site they're going to be locating, and explain how it's going to affect the traffic flow, and also that they can't take away any required parking spaces during the time that they're operating. So a rig like that is going to take up a bunch of parking spaces, and it's going to affect traffic flow on the site pretty significantly, I would think.
So then, even if we approve this motion,
Yes.
they might not be able to operate within Brainerd.
Exactly.
Yes.
They may find it difficult to find a spot.
You have something, Chip?
No, I was just pointing to him.
I just,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I certainly support the motion to allow trailers, but along with kind of where Dave was going, but maybe broadening it a little bit more, I'm not sure, and we talked a lot about this, but I'm pretty sure we did not set up any parameters for the food truck or trailer in this case regarding physical specifications. And when I first read this, I have to be truthful. I had a vision that was not pretty. And that may not be true, and it may not be fair, and we certainly didn't set up any parameters for the food truck that I recall. But I think as this goes past the trial period, or towards the end of the trial period, if the council's looking at continuing with mobile food sales, or mobile sales of any kind, there probably should be some parameters on the physical, whether it be a truck, a trailer, a motorhome. Dave kind of hinted a little bit that this could be an issue, and thank goodness we have the site plan that Mr. Oscar mentioned that will hopefully keep things in check during this trial period. But as we move forward, I think maybe we might want to consider something on the entity itself, whether it be a truck, a trailer, a motorhome that pulls a trailer, or these things that I had in my head that weren't real pretty. But I mentioned that only, not to affect today's motion. I support it. I think it's a good idea. But, because this is a trial. This is where we learn things. But I could see how theoretically something could push the envelope of what we might want.
and I just want to add that everybody got the letter from Mark on what the attorneys had said with respect to the food truck trailers. If the trailer is not allowed, the council must have valid reasons for why it's different than a food truck, and that's kind of what the motion's on the floor. One of the things that I have a vision that we'll be talking next year will be drones delivering food, and will that qualify?
Any other
Might happen
discussion?
sooner than you think.
The one thing I'd like, oh, go ahead. I was gonna say, the one thing I kinda like is the idea that we do have another entity with a different vision during the trial period, as Kelly alluded to. So it gives us a little better opportunity to see how different things work and what won't work, and, you know, so in that sense, I'm kinda glad we've got this opportunity. Yep.
I was just gonna kind of reiterate some of the other concerns regarding the size of this too. I also looked at, you know, I envisioned a semi-truck rig, because, you know, you're not too far from that size here, especially with a Class A motorhome. And then you start thinking about, well, so is there gonna be a whole string of people living in their motorhomes, coming through town for the weekend and setting up? But I think that the way that we're setting that up, tagging it into what we had come up with last year, it seems
Within
to
the
make
ordinance.
sense, yeah.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item number 9, 1224 Pine Street. The motion on the committee will be to set up a scheduled hearing with Safety and Public Works on 4/1 at 4:30, and I would so move.
Second.
And then I'll let Mark go ahead and update us why we're setting this up.
Sure. The owner of that property, his final jail date is March 28th. He currently has been granted a release from jail the rest of the week for 6 hours under the Huber law by a judge, I guess, to go to his house and clean up his property for those 6 hours, and then he has to report back for jail. And hopefully he'll have his property cleaned up by the end of the week. If he doesn't, he'll go back to jail to finish out his sentence, as I understand it. That's the criminal prosecution. That's the criminal part of it. We are also pursuing the civil part of it, and there is a hearing process that's required if the applicant requests one. And Mr. Ross has requested a hearing, and as I mentioned to the Safety and Public Works Committee, that has to be scheduled within 20 days from the date of receipt of the request. The request was last Thursday, so I think we have until like April 2nd to schedule a hearing. So that's what the hearing will be for Mr. Ross to appeal his civil infraction, if you will. I don't know where it's going to go or how it's going to take place, but that's what the hearing will be about, and be heard before the Safety and Public Works Committee.
And we mentioned that the attorney will be present for that. Okay.
Yes. So
Other
that's what
questions?
that's all about.
Other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just for clarification, is the committee the final decision maker in that appeal?
I believe the city code does allow for an appeal of that hearing decision to the full city council at its next meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Second, is any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
One-
Motion carries.
One more item, item number 10, and I'm going to let Jeff just quickly, and then we'll set up a meeting, and you can go ahead. Jeff.
Initially, we had posted a public hearing for this evening for our MS4 permit, and I forgot to get that on the agenda, so we are going to need to reschedule that. We have until the end of June to conduct that hearing. But at this point, since we're going to have to repost it, we would like to reschedule that MS4 public hearing for Monday, April 21st.
That would be the motion on the floor.
Second.
Discussion?
Could Jeff clarify what MS4 is for the viewing
Yes,
public?
that's our municipal separated storm sewer system permit. As part of that, we're required every year to conduct one public hearing to inform the public of what we have done with stormwater management over the previous year, and to take any public comment on or suggestions for our BMPs and new methods of improving our stormwater runoff. This year, we are going to have a little bit of a special presentation since we had to apply for a new permit In fact, it was under my report, but today we did receive notification from the Pollution Control Agency that that our permit application did go through the hearing process, or the posting process, and as of today, we officially have coverage under our new MS4 permit. And at the meeting then on the 21st, we'll sort of highlight some of the changes in the permit, and from that permit, what requirements we are going to have over the next 12 months to come into compliance with those permit requirements.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other discussion? All in favor of scheduling, or do we need a motion?
Yes, we got the motion on the floor.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry.
Motion on the
The
floor.
motion is that we will have the MS4 hearing, or public hearing on the 21st.
April 21st.
In no discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
End of report, thank you.
Thank you. All right, now let's go to P&F. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 1 has been dispensed with. Item number 2, we have 2 police department issues. The first is Personal and Finance moves to approve the request by Police Chief McQuiston to utilize up to $4,500 for the combined cost of 2 computers for the new mobile squad car computers for the investigators. And that money would come from drug forfeiture funds, and I so move.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you,
Motion
and the
carries.
second item is, we have received the resignation of a probationary police officer, Matthew Stein, and the motion is to accept with regret the resignation and request the Police and Fire Civil Service Commission to certify the next top 3 candidates from the police officer eligibility list, and to allow a conditional job offer to be made pending passing of the usual testing and certifications, and I so move.
Second.
Any other discussion? I got a quick question for the chief. Do we have any people on the roster or on the list right now?
This is a brand new eligibility list, so.
And you have 3
only
openings?
When we do at this time,
So-
we've only gone through the top 2 candidates as far as pre-employment
I
screening.
guess my question is, and I don't know that they go further than 3, but, chances are that you may or may not get the 3 positions filled with those 3 lists, so.
That's a good question. I discussed that with the HR coordinator today because one of her thoughts was to ask for more than the top 3 candidates. The challenge we have right now is because we're short-staffed, we have people currently reassigned, so our field training officer staff is below normal. So there's no way we can train more than 2 people with our current staffing levels. We have a person that's been out on an extended work comp injury since last September that hasn't worked. And the chain of events that's caused is an investigator to be a temporary acting sergeant, a patrolman to be a temporary acting investigator, so it's shorted our field training staff. So at this time, we don't feel that we can train more than 2 people at once just because of personnel levels. So that's why I'm only asking for 3, is to get 2 people started again, hopefully get them partway in the training process, then come back and ask for that 3rd person once we get those people started in the training
So
process.
since we've had the COPS grant, how many days have we had the?
2 weeks. 2 weeks since we were awarded the COPS grant in June of 2012, have we been fully staffed at 24 licensed officers.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
End of report.
Thank you. Mr. Osgarden,
Yes, sir.
are you going to be doing the planning commission
I will.
report on the preliminary plat for East Ridge subdivision?
I will, sir. First of all, I want to apologize for a lot of paperwork for only one major issue associated with this subdivision. I included the subdivision ordinance section that applies and went through the entirety for the planning commission for this proposal, which is standard procedure. Northtown West was platted in 2005, and it was intended to be a one unit of condominiums that would have 75 units in it, all individually owned, and would operate as one association. And there are currently, I believe, 17 units that have been built in Northtown West. And as a result of the Great Recession, the property owner at the time either walked away or from the property went into foreclosure, and the project never continued to fruition. A new owner is currently interested in buying the property and changing the design of the rest of the subdivision, or at least that part of the subdivision, if you will, north of Northtown Street, changing the design from multi-unit attached single-family dwellings to a series of side-by-side units, a duplex-style, single-story units, 5 buildings for 10 units in total. The issue with this subdivision is that since it was already platted, since it was all of the utilities were installed as a part of Northtown West, I mean the sewer and the water, the storm sewer, stormwater design was done in accord with the density of that time. All of the utility issues, those have all been addressed, and the change in this subdivision has no adverse effect on the utilities that are being provided. In fact, the lower density of this development now requires less stormwater retention, so a new stormwater retention plan was submitted to the engineering department and approved by our engineering department for the less dense development. There's going to be approximately 4.6 units an acre for the development. I was getting my numbers mixed up at the Planning Commission. I was calling it 5 point something. It's 4.6 units per acre. The individual units themselves will be about 1,120 square feet plus a two-car attached garage. And the price point was estimated to be about $190,000 per unit. I won't go through all of the issues that needed to be reviewed here. Just let me refer you to the findings of fact that the Planning Commission adopted, or recommended adopting for this. It's about 2.1 acres. It's a replat of lots C and D of Northtown West. You can go through the findings of fact. I won't go through all of them. The streets are already installed, the bituminous, et cetera. All the widths meet the requirements to satisfy this type of development. It's less dense than Northtown West was. The comprehensive plan supports this type of development. Jim Kramer is the engineer that spoke on behalf of the applicant at the public hearing for the subdivision. There was one little technical requirement that needed to be amended, and that has to do with the width of the utility easements around each of the lots. They showed it to be 10 feet. They just need to be changed to 12 feet wide, and that's not an issue. Our new zoning ordinance does require there's some additional building design standards for duplexes in terms of alternate material used on the facades. And there's also some landscaping requirements that are now come into play regarding planting of trees and that kind of landscaping. The associations there was one association represented at the City Planning Commission meeting, and 2 people spoke related to the proposal. They did not have objection to the proposal. I should clarify that if you'll take a look on the aerial that I provided in the staff report, there are actually 2 condominium associations. As Clearview Lane circles around, where it goes east and west, where you see 3 buildings, that north section is one condominium association. You'll see a property line it goes east and west off of Clearview, and you'll see 2 multi-unit buildings. That's another association. So there are 2 separate associations up there. The owner of the one on the east is getting ready to turn that association over. That is currently operated by a lending institution, I believe. In addition to Mr. Ederman, who is purchasing this, there are two separate associations north of here, and I'll get into that in a minute because that is an issue. So the Planning Commission's recommendation on this actually replat of Northtown West into East Ridge is recommending approval based on the findings of fact and the three conditions that are outlined in the staff report. Not major one, well, one of them is major, two of them are not. I've left the major issue until the last here, and that has to do with the dispensation or the what to do with the trail that runs along a portion of this platted area. If you look on that aerial again, you'll notice that I've identified trail, and there's a gray surface that continues north out of the subdivision into the condominium association, travels around the north end of the plat, of the associations, I should say, continues south on the west side of Clearview Lane, going south, goes down to Northtown Street. It crosses Northtown Street and continues to loop around to the south. That whole trail, as I mentioned, was anticipated to be used by the Northtown West Association by all 75 units. Well, obviously that didn't come to fruition. Now we need to decide what's going to happen to that trail. And there are actually 4 owners of that trail. You have the 2 condominium associations on the north end. You have Mr. Ederman, where as it affects this plat, there's only a tiny portion of it on the east side. And then if you go around to the west side of Clearview, you'll notice that the trail gets into the city right away. So the 4th owner, if you will, is the public or the city of Brainerd. So we have 4 owners of the trail. Now, in discussing this with Mr. Ederman and Mr. Kramer and at the Planning Commission meeting, it was understood that a resolution is needed with this trail and what's going to happen to it. But the condition associated with that is that a resolution of that trail needs to be determined before a building permit is issued for any of the units that would be constructed in East Ridge subdivision. So the Planning Commission did have some concerns about there not being any sidewalk in this subdivision, or had some concerns about there being none and whether or not some should be installed. At least a couple of the members of the Planning Commission thought that sidewalk should be installed on Clearview Lane in this subdivision. And then the question is, well, if you install it on that portion that's part of the subdivision, what are you going to do with the condominium associations that are located to the north? And then what are you going to do with the rest of Clearview Lane for the installation of sidewalk? In the end, the general consensus of the Planning Commission was just they did not require the sidewalk, but a resolution to the trail has to be made before a building permit is issued. So, the Planning Commission, that's really the only significant issue with this plat, and I'll answer any questions or provide any information you might need.
And, and I was at the planning commission, and my concerns are the trail or sidewalks. There is sidewalk out there. I did go out there, and there is sidewalks in this, not right here, but there's sidewalks in that, in
Northtown, on
in
Northtown
Northtown,
Street?
yes.
Yes.
And I know back when Roger Peel had it and everything else, that was also a concern I had back then because of geographically where this is located. And I'll use, Northland Arboretum, it's not that far away, because I've heard people, and even somebody mentioned planning, that, they're just gonna go round and round, and where is these trails gonna go? Well, eventually, this is in embryo stages of where this whole area is gonna go. So I have great concerns that we start, if it's one slab 4x4 of something, with a trail to move forward. We've got the Trailside Park, we got, the main Paul Bunyan Trail, we've got, the river there, we've got Gilbert Lake, we've got a lot of area up there. And I would like to see us, start with a precedence that is a priority from my end for that whole area, that there's walkable, bikeable. You've got a committee. I don't, from my recommendation, this should also go to your committee for review for that walkable, bikeable. That's basically what that committee is set up for. I hate to see the committee and not have work for it. But, so, and basically I was there and I heard that, we can take this trail out. And I had great concerns. The owner says, well, you know what, we're just gonna take this trail out. My question was, when this went in, did they sell the trail instead of the sidewalk? Back then. They go, okay, we'll put these trails in if we can escape sidewalks. And now all of a sudden, they can come along and take the trails out. And it's like, no, that won't be fair, because then, we need the trails in this area. They go somewhere.
Mr. Chair, in response to Alderman Sheeler, I was on the planning commission when the first plats of Northtown came into being, and I sat through many meetings when these discussions took place. And Alderman Sheeler is correct in his assumption. They were allowed the trail instead of the site. That was a part of the original. I'm sure you remember that, Mark. It was we had a lengthy discussion about the real definition of a trail versus a sidewalk. Or someplace where you could walk. And so I believe that was certainly my recollection. The trail was allowed in lieu of.
And that's what I was
Yeah.
wondering, I couldn't get, and I appreciate your input on
Well,
that.
that's my recollection of it.
Other discussion?
Yeah, I think in our committee meeting, the discussion was made that Mr. Kramer, who was the representative for this developer, said that he would be more than willing to deed over that trail system. But Mark, I'm sorry, I just heard you say the association is getting ready to turn it over. Turn it over to who?
The owner of the property is getting ready to turn the association over to the tenants or the owners of the buildings.
Of the new
There's
building?
enough owners of those
Okay, gotcha.
condominiums on the east
Okay,
side, yeah.
Okay. So that was our concern, that, he was willing to deed it over to the city, but the committee didn't really know if the city wanted to take it over. I made the assumption that we would want to, because it's a trail system that is close to the Paul Bunyan Trail, and just from your last committee meeting that you just had with that Outlot A, it's really almost no different than that. And we're trying to set a precedence here that this is a walkable, bikeable city, and by giving up portions of these, it's harder to ask for permission later than it is to ask for permission now, and it's already in place. And I guess, I can't speak for the entire committee, just merely knowing that, having been there, that was a major concern, and we just felt we needed a directive more from city to see what their thoughts were as far as the resolution to that trail prior to the permits being issued. So, more of a consensus.
And the trail continues through the area. I mean, I see it, when I'm looking on here, it continues, so we're gonna have this issue with each developer that's coming through.
There's
Go
some
ahead.
trail there, right?
You know, my department and my thought on trails. You know where I stand on trying to recommend trail system in our community. And I am 100% in support of where Mr. Sheeler is going in terms of having a trail network in North Brainerd. And we can create a great trail network in North Brainerd that'll link the Arboretum and can link the Trailside Park and link Northtown Subdivision and link Riverside Drive. Where I get a little concerned is that regardless of how it was sold, this was intended to be a private trail. If this trail can provide a connectivity to other parts of the city of the North Brainerd area, meaning going from this subdivision, being able to walk west over to McKay Road, or north, I guess it would be. Walk west over to the Arboretum, walk north up to Trailside Park. Then I could understand keeping it. But if there's not going to be any connectivity coming from this trail, and it's just going to be a loop for the people, I don't see it a part of a system. And if it's not gonna be part of a system, why would we wanna maintain it?
And I would jump in quickly because this is a very dense populated area currently. This is, you're creating a very densely populated area with your plan versus a housing area, which, here is children, and it should have a trail. If you're going to do it, you do it in a heavily densely populated area. That's what you proposed. Go ahead.
Pat?
And complimenting what Mark has talked about there, the developer came in and proposed this, as Councilmember Cope identified, and they were gonna maintain it. The uniqueness of this parcel and somewhat of a figure-8 pattern is that it goes behind houses. The trail, as I understand, was built probably to what would have been city standards, but when it's a trail behind houses now, come wintertime, maintenance is gonna be requested of the city, and we currently don't maintain trails behind houses. It raises a variety of questions for staff and the long term. We talked about the connectivity, but also primarily it was designed by the developer. When the developer went forfeiture, it took away the parameters of the development, even though he built the trails, and we see the benefit for it. But there's also a variety of concerns because it's not connected, and also the maintenance issue that short term and long term.
And the only thing I have is, how about,
I'm gonna check. You guys have anything else to say? Anybody? Okay, Gary, go ahead.
yeah, just quickly, and thank you. The trail that we were designing for along the Mississippi, in that concept, I have that same concept going out there if we are gonna work with any trail. First of all, in the wintertime, we wouldn't maintain trails, because they can put their snowshoes on, and where this trail is located, how I feel, they're gonna mow right up to it. A trail lasts us 40 years, the asphalt, before you got any replacement. And this is all in the last 10 years, so there's a longevity there. But that's how I feel. Go ahead.
I'm just curious, Mark, where the trail comes from the northeast corner, straight south, and then you go across the road, there's another gray strip continuing south. Is that another trail? What is that?
If you look at I have another aerial on the back of the close-in view. I have a more a broader neighborhood view. You see that one?
Oh,
Where it
yeah,
says East Ridge, and a couple of arrows?
yeah,
Okay, you see where the condominium units are?
Yep.
You see the gray line coming south?
yep,
It stops, crosses Northtown Street,
yep,
and continues south again. You see that gray
Yep.
line?
yep,
It goes all the way south, and then it curves around to the west,
okay,
and you can see it coming up to the street on the side, on the south end, and follow the street right away back out to Northtown, where it picks up the sidewalk, and then you take the sidewalk back to Clearview, and then you can pick up the trail again. That's the loop that was created for Northtown West.
okay. I'm not familiar with this at all, and I apologize for that, but, so where it crosses Northtown, does that get much traffic there? Is that a difficult crossing? Is that, what's that like there?
Does it get traffic? I would say that there's a lot of folks in Northtown that love that trail. They like to, I've seen residents up there with strollers and inline skates using the trail, and it's more than just the condo association people.
Oh, where it crosses Northtown Street, though? What, is that a tricky crossing at an angle like that?
No,
No?
no,
Okay.
no.
So, I get the problem of it just being, a loop. But how is that related to what we're talking about tonight?
Well, it is related because there's a tiny portion of that trail that's directly affected by this plat. And has to be a resolution before a building permit is issued. A very tiny portion,
There.
only maybe, 150 feet?
And then the trail goes across.
Oh, okay, all right, I get it.
So we could require that the owner keep and retain and maintain that trail.
I'll give my thought and I'll turn it over to the attorney. I think the city council can.
You think?
I think they can, but I would defer to the attorney to verify.
I'm still remembering it as part of the agreement with the original developer as versus, that's, I still sure that was it. But
I would agree with Mark, with what Mark said, yeah, as a condition to granting the permit.
Mark, do we know what the status of you mentioned one association wants to give the property back to the owners. How about the other association where the trail goes behind?
Yeah,
them?
thank you for bringing that up. I did touch base with a representative of the one on the north end, and his thought was that his fellow residents in that association would not object to it being a public trail. And the other one on the east end also would not object to it being a public trail.
Okay, thank you.
I did talk to the people on the north side where the 3 units are, and they're in agreement, they would like to keep the trail also, but they would like to deed it to the city. But, you know, again,
That would have to be an easement at some point.
yeah,
but
maybe not at this point,
yeah, so,
maybe not. 'Cause we'd have to,
Kelly?
yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This seems like it's gone round and round and round, and I'm sort of surprised this came out of planning and zoning with such an ambiguous non-conclusion. If we're talking about the 65 feet on the developer's property, with the developer being the East Ridge developer, not all the other people, the East Ridge developer. And I don't know, we've talked so long about this, I don't know if there's even a motion on the floor.
there isn't.
But then I would make a motion to approve the planning commission's conclusions and finding of facts with and the last finding of fact being eliminated and changed to the developer maintains that piece of the trail.
And I'll second that motion. That's-
Other discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we need to move. That we have a developer and we have a little bit of a trail. There's a lot of other discussions with the trail as far as deeding it to the city and who's gonna maintain it and everything. But for now, we have a request with a site plan, and I think it simplifies matters to just maintain the trail as it is. And the bigger picture of, is this gonna connect to anything ever? Those are,
That's another discussion.
that's a whole nother
That's a
discussion.
whole other discussion.
But I don't think we should allow the developer to, and I don't know that the developer is asked to remove that 65 feet. So for now, let's leave it in there.
Is there other discussion? Thank you, Kelly. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All same sign, motion carries.
Thank you.
It will be an issue.
Okay, it's time for public forum. This is time allocated for citizens to bring matters not on the agenda to the attention of the council. Time limits may be imposed. Is there anybody who wants to speak to the council? Is there anybody who wants to speak to the council? Third time. Is there anybody who wants to speak to the council? Hearing none, public forum is closed. Same time it was opened, which was 8:33. Okay, the mayor's not here. For reports, city attorney, do you have any?
I have nothing tonight.
City administrator?
I just want to follow up, and it's kind of touches Mark a little bit and the city attorney. We did receive a request with the new council member at large, and her appointment to the planning commission had taken place prior to her being appointed to the city council. Under statute, that is allowed, so we do have 2 council members technically on the planning commission now. There's a long email trail on it, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands that statutorily that is, or actually, it is allowed, and there's a case precedent to that effect.
2 committee members, though?
2 council members
2
on the
council
planning
members, but
commission.
they're on the same committee. That
And it has to do with the fact that she was appointed to the planning commission first, and then the city council appointed her to the city council. If it had been, it couldn't have happened a different way.
But two committee members, there's an issue there, not as two council members, but on the same committee. Because Chip and I cannot have a discussion or be together. Me and Mary can.
Well, public's,
They're meeting at a posted meeting.
yeah, it's posted
Right.
meeting.
Posted
Public is
meeting.
more than welcome to come to any of those planning
Okay.
and zoning
Yeah.
meetings.
Okay.
So I guess I was under the impression that she was gonna be on there until, a new appointment came, but you're saying that that's not the case? That-
It's allowable at this point in time, and it's up to
Yeah.
the city council if you want to change that process, but we're saying it is allowable for the remainder at least of this year.
I am happy to hear that.
And I just wanted to clear it up, because I know how rumors can get going around this town pretty
Mark?
quickly, so.
Yeah, and I'd also suggest might Councilwoman Matten want to decide if she wants to serve on both.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Did I get that question asked?
Well, I don't get the choice.
Well, I know, it's more me. Does he get a choice in it? Let's ask you first. I would be more than happy and honored, actually, because it's definitely of interest to me, so.
Okay, and I think it makes sense, if, as long as it's permissible to continue on through the end of the year, because then, at the beginning of the year, there will be appointments, reappointments, so I think that makes sense.
If you have the time and the energy, fantastic.
Yeah. So it appears we don't have to make a motion since that's where we're headed, so. Okay, good enough, thank you.
Thank you.
City engineer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The only item I had to report this evening was receiving our new coverage under our new MS4 permit, so I made that earlier. So other than that, I know we have a forecast for some inclement weather tomorrow, so I want to remind people to, it's March, it's spring, but when the snow starts falling, be careful, because the roads will get slippery.
Thank you.
End of report.
I might have to add something, I'm sorry, just based upon that, and working with the city, or the BPU, still run your water.
Yes.
That hasn't gone away just because it's looks like it's warmer outside. There's still a lot of frozen ground in there, and that's where our issues are at.
And it's,
Maybe Jeff could speak to that a little bit.
If I can, in fact, I do have one other item. Load limits in the central zone are going on effective midnight tonight, so our crews were out posting streets today. A lot of our local residential streets, we are restricting weights to 5-ton axle weights. And that's effective immediately, and will probably be in place until about the second week of May. Depends on how fast the frost comes out. We did check the MnDOT website today. A lot of their frost tubes only go down about 84 inches, and they're showing 84 inches of frost. So there's a lot of frost on the ground, and that sort of accentuates the issue of water, or running water, because the frost is down there around the water services and the water main, and it's gonna, as the frost comes out, it does go down deeper, so it, water mains and services are gonna be susceptible to freezing for probably the next month or so.
The city trucks are excluded from the load limit, so
Yes.
you're out there with the big trucks, so they don't call and say your guys are on the roads and it's posted.
No, we are exempt, garbage trucks are exempt, school buses are exempt.
Okay, thank you.
I do believe the governor also allowed honey wagons to be
Yes.
exempt as well, so.
You're correct.
We don't have any of them.
we have too many of those.
There are some.
Mark, do you have anything to
Yes,
add?
Mr. President, I have a number of items I'd
Okay.
like to report on tonight. First of all, we have received the application for the interim use permit for the Wausau site decommissioning. That came in on Thursday. A number of items with that application. Engineering department, building department, planning department, all the departments are reviewing the application to ensure that that we consider it to be a thorough and complete application. So tomorrow I'll be discussing that some more with the administrator and Jeff and Tim Cahy on the completeness of that application. That is associated with the special planning commission meeting that is still scheduled for March 24th at 6 p.m. to consider the interim use permit application from Renew Recycling from Michigan. The public hearing notice has been sent to the neighborhood. It has been advertised. So that is still proceeding. If for some reason we go through the application and find that it is not a complete application, the public hearing would have to be canceled. So keep that in mind. But if that public hearing occurs on the 24th, that's going to be quite an extraordinary public hearing, I think. There's going to be a lot of issues discussed that night, a lot. And that's going to be where all the sausage is made with regard to this application and this recommendation. This is where we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. And this is where the application is going to have, the conditions are going to come from the Planning Commission. This is where the public will get an opportunity to voice their concerns and issues. So we will be televised, but there'll be a lot of discussion that night. I could see a quite lengthy meeting if it happens. Second or third of all, then, well, I should also mention that the process is set up so that now if we have the meeting on the 24th, on the 27th, we have another special city council meeting to consider the Planning Commission recommendation. So after the night of the 24th, on the 25th, we're going to package that all up, get the public hearing minutes done, get all the attachments, get them sent out to you on hopefully Tuesday, early Wednesday, so that you get a chance to review them before your Thursday meeting. I've asked you in the past if you think that's a sufficient time to review the information, and I got the feedback that, yeah, it was going to be okay. So hopefully the Planning Commission will be able to have a thorough and complete recommendation for you on the 24th if it happens. Also, next Wednesday, the 26th, will be the first Riverfront Partnership Committee Rivership Partnership Plan Steering Committee meeting at the Fire Station Training Room. That'll be at 4 p.m. All of the appointments that the City Council has made, as well as the appointments from various organizations and agencies, will be at that meeting. It very likely could be 15 people in attendance that night, that afternoon. We are getting ready for the April, May, June newsletter that will be going out hopefully in April. We've already started thinking about articles for that newsletter. With regard to Whittier decommissioning, something that the City Council and the Planning Commission may want to consider is that if that is going to become a demolition, it's going to be a major demolition. We were concerned about decommissioning of major facilities in industrial districts, but we also have major facilities in residential districts. Should the decommissioning process be required for major non-residential demolitions in residential districts? If so, we'll need to amend our zoning ordinance to make that happen. And it's on the adjournment schedule, but I'll mention that on Thursday morning at 8 a.m., the Planning Commission will have a tour of the Wausau plant. And Mr. President, if I may, you've stated on here that all the council is invited to attend, so obviously if you're available, you're welcome to join the Planning Commission. With the Planning Commission, if there's council members, since it's a public meeting, if the press shows up, they'll have to be allowed to attend, and if there's any public that wants to attend, there could be at a minimum of 15 people that will be at that walkthrough that morning. I would anticipate a 90-minute walkthrough or so. So, did I hit everything? I think I did, Mr. President. I'll end the report.
Thank you.
Can I just thank Mr. Ostergaard for doing a great job? I have seen how busy he has been in the last month. He's doing a great job for the city. I want to thank you, and I don't think anybody behind the scenes other than a few of us see what you are doing. So I just want to commend you for all the things that you got going, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you, sir.
One quick question, Mark. What was the river meeting is when?
26, next Wednesday at 4 p.m. at the fire station.
Maybe I could quickly ask, is I know I will be there. Mark had asked me to say a few words. I'm just wondering, is anybody else planning on going?
To the Washington? Yeah.
No, to
To
the
the-
meeting on the 26th at the fire
I
station.
plan to be there.
Because we will have to adjourn to that
Yes.
meeting also. Yeah. Okay, anything else for the planner? Fire chief, police chief, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing in addition to the written report.
Thank you. Finance director?
Nothing in addition to add?
Okay. Council President, I just had a couple things I handed out to the council. One of the things is the official appointment of Dolly to the P&F committee. We didn't get a chance to actually do that. She's actually taking what would have been my spot, and so she was at the first meeting, and I wasn't there, so I don't know how her first meeting went with Mr. Bevins.
She did great. A definite improvement.
Wait, I think I missed something.
You asked. I was keeping my mouth shut.
Oh, I didn't, did Mr. Bevins say something? I didn't hear.
Strike that.
And I also handed out, if you remember, Bonnie had handed out to us as part of her report, a summary of things that we had done last year, things that we still had to do, and things that we had given to her. So I took that list and I put it in a spreadsheet format. And what I would like to do is to have you look through the list and kind of prioritize some of the things. We're already working on some things. This is actually over and above our strategic plan. This is things that we want to make sure we work on. So I would like by the next meeting if you could turn those into staff, and if staff could just put those together. And then we can then kind of set some priorities on projects that we have.
Maybe some could be eliminated,
And some could be eliminated, yes.
focus on a few priorities.
And then the other thing that I mentioned is that sometime this spring, or not spring, probably by early summer, I'd like to have another visioning session similar to what we had to, we went out 3 years when we did this. I want to continue this, and I'm going to try to summarize our progress as of where we are now, but I want to then look ahead to other things that we might want to put on there. So I'm going to ask staff to see if they can get a hold of get a hold of Bladek and Zach and try to set up something. I'm thinking, I don't know what you guys think about June, somewhere in there. It can't be at the end of June, right? That's where the history week is.
This first 75-degree day, none of us want to be.
Yeah, I know.
But that might
That's
be
not
June.
June, that's more August.
Even
So
July.
that's something that I want to try to push forward. So that's the end of my report.
No, thanks for doing a good job and taking over on that strategic plan.
And you're sorely missed from P&L. That's what I meant.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
And would you allow me to just give a very brief update on our History Week?
Yes.
Because we are working on that, and we'll have to begin, we have 2 meetings this week on it, and we will have to begin meeting more often. Just update you, we are planning, there will be a reenactment of the Babyface Nelson bank robbery, and the Foys are taking that as their project and plan to...
Sorry, who is?
The family who own it, FY1.
Oh, okay.
And so they will be in charge of that, and that will be it'll be done at least once, possibly twice, during History Week. Great Northern Railroad Center, there will not only be tours, but we now have an offer from the director, the entertainment director of that center from the metro area. We'll be meeting with them Wednesday. And they are offering to put on a gala event there during History Week. That would include food and music and entertainment and all kinds of things. So we'll be meeting with them to see what we can work out. The veterans are going to be meeting with us shortly, and we want them involved in some very specific event. Group with the antique cars have come forward, and they will be driving the cars around Brainerd, and actually they have cars that run. And so they will be doing that, and those are just a few of the things. I go on and on, but Gary doesn't like.
I know how to spell.
Well, thank you.
Just keep you up to date on what we're doing.
Are there any other committee reports? No other committee reports, okay. Committee recommendations. Sean Stanich and Tony Chesak for the Mississippi River Steering Committee.
So moved. Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we're to the adjournment. We will be adjourning to three things. We will be adjourning to the Planning Commission tour of Wausau Paper Plant, and the intent there is to look at what's encompassed in with the interim use permit, so we get a hands-on with that. We will also be adjourning to the Riverfront meeting, which is at the Fire Hall at 4 p.m. on Wednesday, the 26th. And then we will have a special city council meeting on March 27th to discuss the Wausau plant interim use permit that the
It's the 26th.
planning commission has or will have already voted on.
Quick question, will there be a cover letter on all of these so I can stack them up? Or do we, in the city, kind of like the?
We should put something together.
Yeah.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye.
Against-
Opposed?